Okay, the combined rational expression worksheet or combining fractions. So combining means adding and subtracting them. In order to do that, the bottoms need to be the same. And these are more complicated because they have letters in them. So I skipped number one because it's kind of a dopey question. It's probably a good idea to put parentheses around it. I do that anyway. The first step is to identify what you want the least common denominator to be, right? But you basically just take each bottom, if they're different from each other, and combine them together, right? You multiply them. So then your goal is to give each fraction the part that it doesn't have to make it look like this. I mean, that's your goal. So if you look at the first fraction, it has the x minus 5 part, but it's missing this part. So you have to put it there. But if you put it on the bottom, you have to put it on the top, right? That's the way this works. You can't just do the bottom. So this fraction has the x plus 4, but he's missing the x minus 5. So you just give him the piece he doesn't have. It's very straightforward. Does it get nasty? Yes, it gets nasty. It's annoying. It's a lot of writing. It's a pain in the ass. Now I'm going to put them all together. I created the new bottom. I guess it's backwards from that, but it doesn't matter, right? You still have the same things. It goes both ways. So on this top, you have 3 times x plus 4. Take away 4 times x minus 5. Now you just have to multiply it all out. Collect everything. No, I'm going to be lazy. I don't want to write this 40,000 times. So I'm going to have 3 times x plus 3 times 4, right? Distribute one at a time. That's on the top. Take away, and here's where you got to be careful because here's where the mistake will happen. You do negative 4 times x. That's not where the mistake's going to happen. Then you do a negative 4 times negative 5. That's where the mistake will happen. You got to put a plus 20 there. And I know I'm writing it a little sloppy. Now I'm going to go this direction. 3x's take away 4x is negative 1x. If you don't like that 1 there, don't put it there. Just write negative x. Positive 12, that is a 12, plus 20 is 32. And then what was the bottom? Well, actually, I'll write it the way that it was originally. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what order that you write them in. Okay, so this is the final answer. Not that bad. You just, again, it's about being careful. Watch the signs. Make sure that you put what it's missing on the top and the bottom. And then, multiply it all out, collect it. It's not that bad. So that's number 2. All right, number 3, the first one that actually requires a little bit of work. You can't just put this here, right? In order to find the least common denominator, you have to factor, right? Step 1 is to always look and see if you can factor the bottoms. And in this case, I can. This is a difference of squares, right? So it should be p plus 1, p minus 1, right? Something times itself. There's no middle term, right? Binomial. So let me just write that there and save a little space. So I factor the bottom, difference of squares. Now, there you go. I want my fractions to both look like this. That's my LCD. I mean, I'll write it again. It's kind of pointless, but I'm writing it. So this is what I want that bottom to look like. But right now, all he has is this piece. He already has both pieces. Look, see, they match. Whenever you factor this guy, that's going to be the bottom. You have to give the p minus 1 dude the p plus 1. So put it up there. Now, again, here's where you got to be really careful. Make sure you do it on top and bottom. Whenever you see a negative there, you got to be super careful because signs are going to switch. Now, I made the bottoms the same, right? P plus 1, p minus 1. I don't want to write it because I'm lazy. So I have 8p. I'm going to combine them now, right? Now they're the same. Look, they're identical. Oh, but they're opposites. Still the same. P minus 1, p plus 1. I'm going to combine them into one fraction. And now negative 4 times p plus 1. That's what's on the top. Again, LCD is not changing. It's p plus 1, p minus 1. It's not writing it. 8p stays there waiting. What is it waiting for? It's waiting for you to go multiply negative 4 times p. And then negative 4 times the positive 1. This is where you gotta be careful. Negative 4 times a plus, that's negative 4. And it matters. You'll see when I finish this that it's going to make a huge difference if I did that sign wrong. You have 8 pineapples and you eat 4 pineapples, you're left with 4 pineapples. And then the negative 4 goes along for the ride. It has no like terms. Now, again, I'm just going to keep writing LCD. I know it's P plus 1, P minus 1. That's why I wrote it there. So I can write it here. Now, the top, look, 4P minus 4. They have a 4 that they're both divisible by. So that's GCF. That's type 1 factoring, right? So you factor out the 4 from the top. The bottom was P plus 1, P minus 1. Now, let's stop a second. If I had messed up this sign and put a plus here, I'd have 4P plus 4, and I'd have a plus 1 there, and I'd cross out the wrong dude. It's essential that you make sure your signs are right, because if you make a huge mistake in it, it's going to tank the problem. I was supposed to have a minus, and I have it right. So now I have P minus 1's cross out. So the 4 is left upstairs all alone. And the P plus 1, if you want to put the parentheses, that's fine. At this point, I can drop them because I have nothing else on the bottom with it. So again, factor the bottom that can be factored, figure out the LCD, which is always going to be this, give the other fraction what it was missing, multiply it out, collect like terms, simplify if you can. You will not always be able to simplify. Question 2 didn't simplify. I had negative x plus 32 on the top. You can't do anything with that, and nothing crosses out. So sometimes it simplifies nice, and sometimes it doesn't. The only way to know is to do it and do it right. Okay, problem 4. Again, it's going to be more of the same stuff. You see two fractions, you want to combine them into one. Here I'm adding. So I don't have to worry about sign changes. With the negative here, it's always more tricky. Like the previous one had the negative there. I have to factor this first. So, do it. In fact, I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to write LCD because I know that whatever I factor here will be my LCD, my least common denominator. So I'm going to put my two parentheses. I'm going to put x and x. So let's see. That sign goes first. The other one's different. It's got to be 5 and 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Negative 5 plus 3 makes the negative 2 in the middle. So I know that this bottom factored. There's no reason not to write it here. Now, again, you're playing the game of making them match. This bottom has to have the part that it doesn't have. It has that part, but it needs this. So you give it the part that it's missing. You give it the x minus 5. Now, again, we're going to write one big fraction. I'm going to combine them together. Now, on the top of this fraction, so let's do it on the side. I'm going to have positive 2 times x minus 5, right? You need to do the distributing. So let's do it a little more efficiently this time. Multiply it. 2 times x, 2x. So, right, boop. And then 2 times negative 5, negative 10. All right, we can just be a little bit more efficient about this. Now, I can combine things. You have to be very careful. There's some silly mistakes happen here. You have 5 apples and 2 apples. That's 7 apples, not 7 apples squared, right? Don't do that. Be very careful. When you're combining like terms, they don't change. You just add or subtract the numbers in the front, the letters don't change. So 5x's plus 2x's is 7x. The negative 10 just goes along to the right. And on the bottom, I had my LCD. X minus 5, x plus 3. Yay! See, it's not that bad. Just keep track of it. This is the important thing that you factor, right? If you factor this wrong, then you're gonna, that's it. The whole thing is gonna be wrong. You're gonna put the wrong thing on the other fraction, and it doesn't matter what you do at that point. So as long as you're careful, collect, don't do anything silly. Nothing crosses out here, right? You say, oh, but the 5 into the 10. That 10 is connected to this with a minus. This 5 is connected to this x with a minus. And as I said, you don't cross things out that are connected to something else with a plus or a minus. So you have to just leave it alone. When in doubt, don't screw with it. So if you screw with it wrong, it's going to be wrong. Okay, question 5. Once again, we're going to play the same game. Whichever bottom can be factored, I'm going to factor, and that's going to be my LCD. This does not factor. I mean, what the hell could you possibly do with this? There's no GCF. It doesn't have an x squared. Now, this one, though, has an x squared. And it's got 2 terms, right? The binomial. So it's type 3. The difference is squares. So we're going to put x plus 3, x minus 3. That's going to be my LCD. So may as well put it up here. So put x plus 3, x minus 3. Now, I mean, look, he needs this. He's already got that part. You got to give him the part he doesn't have. And I need more room, so I'm just going to move that. I'll transplant it over here. So I have to do x minus 3 on the top. And and I have to do x minus 3 on the bottom. At this point, I have made them identical, right? So well, I won't be lazy this time. I'm going to put x plus 3, x minus 3. Remember, the order doesn't matter, right? I mean, if you multiplied 2 times 3 and 3 times 2, this is why it doesn't matter which one you write first. That's 6 and that's 6, right? Multiplication is commutative. It goes both ways. So it doesn't matter if you write the x plus 3 first, and the x minus 3 second. You write them whatever order you want. They're still the same. So on the top here, I have 2 times, right? X minus 3. And over there, I just have a 3. Now, again, I'm going to neaten this up. I'll do it down here, and then I'll erase it. I'll put it back up there. You're going to do 2 times x. And then you're going to do 2 times negative 3. That's negative 6. So once I do my distributing, make it look go pretty and erase everything. You get 2x minus 6. There's nothing to go with that 2x, right? I don't see anything else that has an x in it, but I have minus $6 plus 3. If you owe me 6, but you pay me 3, you still owe me 3. So you have 2x minus 3 on top. And as I have said, to death. As tempting, you're going to cross out the 3's. There's a plus there connecting this 3 to something else. So, and there's a negative connecting that 3 to something else. So you cannot cross out those 3's. It's tempting. Your brain wants to do it, especially if you're tired, you're not paying attention. You see 3's and you're just like, you just cross them out. Cannot do it. Pluses or minuses between things is connecting them in a way that prevents you from crossing out. All right, I think I will do one more since I didn't do number 1. Number 1 was lame. All right, 6 is tricky. 6 is tricky because you have a negative here. And whenever you have a negative, it's going to make things more complicated because subtracting is always harder because it switches the signs. So again, like we did on all the other questions, we factor the bottom, that can be factored. You can't factor this. It's nothing. There's no GCF. It's not a difference of squares. It's not even an x squared. So, but you can factor this. So you're going to put x and x. My signs are the same. How do I know that? Because I have a positive here. The only way you're going to get that is if the signs were the same. So put the negative, and then the other one is negative, right? A negative times a negative is a positive. The only numbers that multiply to be 2 is 2 and 1. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. In the middle, you get negative 2, and then you get negative 1. That's negative 3 on the end. All right, so easy peasy. I'm going to put that there just to make it look all pretty. And then make it obvious what we're missing, right? He matches here. I have the first part. I just need that part. So put the part that he doesn't have. Again, this is all about giving the second fraction the part that it is missing. So again, one big ass fraction. All right, at this time, stop being lazy. So the first fraction had 3x minus 5, so that just goes along for the ride. The second fraction, though, has negative 1. Put that 1 times what? X minus 1. Look, that's what you get, right? Negative 1 times x minus 1. Now do that distributing. I'm going to do it down here, and then I'll erase it and put it back up there. Negative 1 times x is negative x, or negative 1x, whatever you want. You want to put a 1 in front, put the 1 there. Now, negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. This will screw up the whole question if you miss this. If you don't switch that sign, the whole thing is going to end up wrong. You'll see, because you won't be able to simplify it. So that negative x plus 1 goes up there. Now, you put together, this one's more interesting because it has more terms to combine. You put together the things that look the same. Here's an x dude. Here's an x dude. You want to put the 1 there? You don't have to. 3x's take away 1x is 2x. Now you have negative 5 plus 1. You owe me 5, but you pay me 1, so you still owe me 4. If you didn't switch this sign, if you know, when you did this distributing up here, or I did it down there, if you didn't do negative 1 times negative 1 is plus 1, if you put a minus 1 there, you'd have this wrong. You'd have a negative 6 there. And it wouldn't, it's not going to work because you're going to see I'm going to get to simplify here. So 3x minus x, 2x, negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Now, you're like, I'm done. I was like, oh, I can cross out those 2's. No, you can't. You can't cross this out unless I see x minus 2 on the top. But 2 and 4 are both divisible by 2. Ooh, I got GCF. You can factor the 2 from the top, right? Cut these numbers in half. That becomes a 1, that becomes a 2. So the x stays, the negative stays, the 4 gets cut in half, right? Factor out the 2, type 1, GCF. And now, look, product. See, multiplication. That is what allows you to cross those out. There's no plus between them. There's a times between them, so they cross out. So then the 2 is left alone upstairs, and then the x minus 1 is downstairs. All right. That's all she wrote. Enjoy.